Hello, everybody. Welcome to 5 Questions with LeRoy Butler, and we're here post-Thanksgiving Day. Hope you had a good Thanksgiving.
It was
Eat
good.
Too much turkey?
Well, not only that, we had a couple of family members come over, and one of the uncles had on a Brett Favre Viking jersey.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, and so we had extra gravy, and we threw it on him. What a weirdo. That's just crazy. I mean, I don't mind if it would have been a Green Bay jersey, but you can't just come there in a Viking jersey. The team stinks, and I mean, that's just bad karma. I mean, what's all of that, man?
I don't know. No,
sometimes family can be the weirdest people.
Anyway, let's touch briefly. It's been, 5-6 days since the Packers beat the Lions. They're now 11-0. How convincing was that victory? And how much credit do you give them for keeping their heads when that whole Ndamukong Suh thing came about?
I think, Tom, the brilliant thing about Mike McCarthy is he puts his team in position to understand the magnitude of games. And that's what's so disappointing about Suh's play. He's one of their best players. You have to keep your head to say, my team is better when I'm playing. So you can't be selfish and do things like this the way you get ejected. And for the most part, you put in, and I sat around and thought about this thing. I said, wait a minute, Ted Thompson strikes again. Both your middle linebackers go out. Okay, fine, you bring in, some guys. Hey, I didn't even know Francois still on the roster. Interception. Smith makes a big play, but not only that, you put in a backup center at guard, even Dietrich Smith. And the reason why Suh got upset, Tom, he just got pancaked by a guy that has no experience. So to me, this staff, this offensive staff, again, I have to give them a lot of credit of putting in guys you don't really know. At, right guard after Josh Sitton went out with a knee injury and played well.
So 11-0. I think they won 3 games in 11 days, and none of them were pretty.
That's
I mean, maybe the Vikings game was pretty thorough domination, but I guess getting through that stretch. Now they got the Giants on Sunday. This is probably the meat of their schedule right now.
Well, if you look at the whole realm of everything, the Giants, this is a must-win for them if they're going to be talked about for the playoffs. Because Chicago may slide a little, not having Jay Cutler, but Detroit depends on how they get their head together. They got to play the Saints. So this is pivotal for the Giants. With that being said, the Giants feel like they have a recipe to defeat the Packers. But the Packers at this point, they're so battle-tested, and they understand the magnitude of everything that's going on around them. And Aaron Rodgers is playing at an alarming rate. I just don't see the Giants, beating them if they're playing up to their par.
Okay. Well, let's talk about you made a little reference to it, which was Josh Sitton went down with a knee injury. He's been battling a knee all year and probably hasn't performed up to par, but this is a different knee, and he's not going to play against the Giants. Now, this has the potential to be a disaster against a really good Giants defensive line that includes Justin Tuck, who can really move around, and they can put him over there. They can put Jason Pierre-Paul. They can really create some matchups. What direction would you go? Would you go with Dietrich Smith again? Would you go with the first-round pick, Derek Sherrod? Or would you go with, there's a guy named Ray Dominguez, who's a big, strong, physical guy, but he's never played a game before, and he's a undrafted rookie. What do you do?
I'm going with Dietrich Smith because that was the first reaction when Sitton went out. He went in there and did a pretty good job. At this point, I don't want to make too many changes because if you put in guys who've not played or not a lot of experience, you got to try to switch everything. I mean, because somebody say, well, why don't you put, Brian Bulaga at guard and bring in, move Newhouse back to right tackle and put Sherrod in at left tackle. Too many moving parts. We're too late in the season for that. But I will say this, the team, if you put in Dietrich Smith, you can just keep everything rolling. It's not a whole lot of missing pieces there. And for the most part, this offensive line is not real athletic. They have problems on the outside with speed rushers. So you can see the Giants at times, they're going to pressure Aaron Rodgers. So, because I'm going to tell you something, Bulaga struggled, okay? He struggled against Averill up in Detroit.
Yes,
so it's going to be some problems with because the Giants have 7 guys, Tom, committed to rushing the passer. They rotate them in, they get them fresh. But Osa Umenyiora went out, had a sprained ankle against the Saints, so don't know if he's going to play. But if he's in there, they can cause a lot of problems.
No question. And, you know, it'll be interesting. You know, one of the reasons I mentioned Dominguez is because they throw in DJ Smith. He hadn't played hardly a down, and look what happens. He comes in, he plays a darn good game. So this kid is really big and strong. I mean, really top heavy, and I mean, he, in some regard, that might be what they need there. But we'll see. I think you're probably right. They'll go with Dietrich Smith. They may have another issue at right outside linebacker as well, publicized that Erik Walden got arrested for, suspicion of domestic abuse. One comment on that, how unfortunate that is, and, how players, we're not sure if he's guilty or not, but regardless, players have to be careful of what they're doing, right? They can't carry stuff from the field to their
Here's what he is guilty of. You never, ever hit a woman. You try to make sure you understand. And here's the credit. See, I can't have it both ways. I can't say that McCarthy has these guys, this is not too big. They're a smart team. They walk away from all their fights. They do everything right. But then you have a guy get in trouble, then it's like you can't cover it up. Whenever it's, and it's just my opinion, my personal opinion, you never get into this domestic thing with a young lady, wife, girlfriend, doesn't matter what, physical violence. You just walk away. And not to mention, trust me, me and you from 2:30 to 6:30, we're lovers, not fighters.
Yeah, right.
So I'm just disappointed for the fact because he's a starter. He's been playing very well, and now you don't talk about that, and now he had to sit in jail for over the weekend. It's just very disappointing, but for the most part, I don't know how the Packers are going to handle that.
Right, that's the question. What do? Do they suspend him until his case is heard on the December 7th? It'll be decided whether charges are filed. Well, he has not been charged yet with anything.
I would play him until I'm forced to do something, because at this point you really don't have to do anything, because they'll let the legal process kind of play out, and then the commissioner may call up and find out what are you doing internally. If not, he may want to look at it. But for the most part, keep those distractions out of the locker room. And the best thing for him to do is to not to really talk about it so much, because the more you talk about it, people can pick apart the story.
Well, his attorney's not going to allow him to do that.
Yeah, I would just talk about the Giants.
The option is, they do have Frank Zombo should be back this week, and Zombo is...
But it's another guy that's coming out of the bullpen that's not 100%. And Brad Jones, can you really count on him?
Right.
I mean, you could put Neal over there at times, but for the most part, you would like Walden to be out there, because if he's physically able to play, you got to play him.
Right.
So, but I think for the most part, I just want to say this. It's not an epidemic of guys getting in trouble up there. It's not like Cincinnati. Like you got all these convicted felons. It's not like that. So I think the culture up there is, guys make mistakes, but it's a family. You take care of your own, but we don't cover up anything.
Right.
You expose it. You make sure a guy gets help and make sure his family is taken care of.
Right. Looking ahead, Packers are heading out to Giants Stadium and facing the Giants and Eli Manning. And let's talk about Eli Manning. He can be so good at times, and then, he can be the Eli Manning who I thought was awesome in the NFC Championship game in Green Bay. And then he can be the Eli Manning last night who sometimes looked good and then threw 3 picks.
Well, it's good Eli and it's bad Eli. And then breaking down film, I will say this, the positives, I'll concentrate on that real quickly. The positive is this. He's one of the best play-action quarterbacks in the game. So any time you see his name, he's reaching a ball out. If you're a safety, get depth. When he looks up, he's looking to Cruz. And we'll talk about number 80, Victor Cruz, and we'll talk about that later, X and O's. Stay tuned for that. But the bad Eli is, Tom, is decision-making. Your decision has to go into what's the score, what's the down and distance, and how badly do I need to squeeze the ball in there. And I'm not necessarily saying you throw it to a tight window like Aaron Rodgers every single time. But when you don't have the arm strength of Aaron Rodgers, you have to understand, let your talent, okay? Let your talent help you. And sometimes Eli tries to do it himself.
Yeah.
And I think that's where he gets in trouble.
Sometimes you have to, you know, live for another day.
Absolutely, especially if the defense is not playing well, like last night against the Saints, you got to say, look, I got to slow this game down. Don't turn the ball over, especially in the red zone. I think that was his third interception in the red zone. That's a no-no. Aaron Rodgers, over the years, has one interception in the red zone since he's been playing.
Yeah.
I mean, so red zone interceptions are terrible.
Okay. And, you know, one thing I think that'll really be tested is the Packers tackling, because the Giants are a big physical offense and led by Brandon Jacobs, who we all remember running over Charles Woodson in the NFC Championship game. Plus, we all remember LeGarrette Blount just breaking 6 tackles on the Packers.
Right.
This is going to be a big challenge for them on defense.
You're absolutely right, Tom. That's why you're one of the second smartest man in sports behind me.
Thanks.
You can honestly see, Tom, them throwing it out to a wide receiver screen and making them tackle. Hicks, 88, that's a big kid,
big man,
big strong guy, make him tackle.
Right.
You can see them throwing it out to Manningham. I don't know if he's going to play, Michigan product, see if they can tackle. You can see them throwing it to Victor Cruz, a smaller guy, very quick, seeking a tackle. Tom, not to mention the tight end is huge. You can see them dumping the ball off to middle screens and running the ball and wearing that secondary down. But I will say this, if you're a secondary member, you're thinking, I'm going to get some picks.
Yeah.
You're going to have an opportunity to get 4 picks in this game. And as Tramon Williams will attest to, you must catch them.
Yeah, and you know, this will be a test. Sam Shields and Burnett and Pepper better come ready to tackle.
Absolutely.
This is going to be a physical game.
I would put on some of that 2007 game and see the way they missed the tackles and weren't real physical in that game, just a little bit. But for the most part, 12-0 is very obtainable. These next 2 games, once we get past the Giants in Oakland, every week on this show we're going to talk about them history of being undefeated. I just don't see anybody else can beat them after Oakland.
Right. Great. Well, thanks for joining us, and we'll be back again next week.
And this is sponsored by Syndic's Ballester owned and operated. You can go to lbf36.org and you can order my new cookbook. If you order it by December 16th, you'll get it by Christmas. That's lbf36.org, and send a request. You'll get my new cookbook. I'll give you one next week.
Okay.
To see if you can. And plus,
because you still owe me a turkey.
I do owe you a turkey. And W.J. Kuhn in Oak Creek, best automotive center in Wisconsin. Go there, ask for Scotty Brooks, and he will, trust me, he will give you 10% off.
Okay, and don't forget X's and O's follows.
Stay tuned for that.